Hello, I'm Dylan.
And I'm Keon.
And this is Trust Your Doctor, that podcast that's a hunk of junk, because this week we watched Battlefield.
Written by Ben Aaronovitch, I still don't know how to say his name.
Directed by Michael Kerrigan.
And aired in September of '89.
We're in the final season now.
Yep.
We're
in the home stretch
3 weeks away
of
from
the classic series.
Yeah. And then we get to start all over again in the reboot. We
but
should
not
just
before that other
start
stuff.
with episode 1 again. We should just start numbering from 1 again, just to confuse everybody.
Yeah, because of how they restarted with Series 1. No, we're not going to do that, probably.
Or are we?
No, we're probably not. Like, there's a pretty good chance
or
that we're not.
Or are we?
No, we might, but I'm just saying we're probably not going to go with that.
So you're saying there's a chance?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, good to know.
So yeah, this final season here has really generically named stories. Battlefield, Survival. I don't know what the other two are
Curse
called.
of Fenric. That's not generic. I don't know what the final one's called. It's next week's serial too. I don't know what it is. Could be anything.
The possibilities are endless. Actually, they're not. We just don't know what it is.
No, I guess we could look it up.
But we're not going to. Oh no, actually we are. Apparently we're just doing that right now.
Ghostlight.
Oh yeah, it's also kind of generic.
Yeah, I guess. Like Mater and the Ghostlight, that short that was on the Cars DVD.
So it starts with the brig.
It starts with the brig.
Yeah, bringing back the brig after all these years since what's called Modern Undead.
Yeah, well, I guess they desperately need that jolt of
viewership.
Yeah, the brig's not a professor anymore.
No, he's just a retired guy.
It is 1997.
Yeah, great year to retire. Apparently he's taken up gardening in his spare time.
The brig is the last person I would expect to take up gardening in his spare time.
His endless spare time now that he's retired. And apparently he's really let himself go, really put on the pounds there. Wasn't that...
I mean, he's retired, so he's allowed to.
No excuses.
He's also married. No kids. But he has a wife who keeps pestering him to do more gardening. It starts with them picking out a tree to plant in the garden. The brig's like, I'll plant this next week.
Is that what they were doing?
Yeah.
I thought they were just bickering.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be a very pleasant marriage. And I think in the expanded universe, they end up getting divorced. I wonder why.
And
then we get the Doctor in the TARDIS. In the only TARDIS shot of the entire season, apparently, because apparently they accidentally junked the walls of the TARDIS after Greatest Show in the Galaxy.
Haven't they done that before?
Silver Nemesis.
At least twice.
Yes. So just sticking with the tradition. So they lit it really darkly. So if you're wondering why it's dark in the TARDIS during that scene, it's because they didn't want anyone to know that the walls were different and hastily put together when they realized that they'd been junked on accident.
Yet they didn't care about the obvious crappiness of the Arthur and the Excalibur and the stone set.
You mean the spaceship?
Yeah, looks pretty bad.
It's a spaceship.
Looks pretty bad.
Doesn't look that bad.
It looks pretty bad. Those lights on the staircase, those Christmas lights they just strung on the staircase, look pretty bad.
Doesn't look that bad.
Yeah, I thought it looked pretty bad. Maybe
but
not
because
the worst,
they spent all the money on that village. That bar.
And the explosions.
Worth it. Anytime we get more explosions in Doctor Who, it's worth it. So the Doctor's got a new outfit on. I mean, it's basically the same. He's just got a darker coat on. So
exciting.
Yeah, thrilling. It's like that time the fourth Doctor changed his coat to a coat that's just a couple shades darker / lighter.
Are you talking about his entire reinvention?
No, I'm talking about
of his
that time where he had the same scarf.
Outfit?
No. I'm talking about that time he just changed his red coat to a brown one.
Ah, so you mean the time when Romana put on
I'm talking about
supposedly more feminine version of his outfit.
Season like 8.
So when Romana put on that pink coat,
Romana wasn't in season 8.
Got it.
Sure. You know what? Sure. Sure. Apparently the hat has a brown lining too, but I didn't notice.
Because the hat itself is brown. Okay, no, I don't know
it's
what color
desert
it is.
color. It's desert.
It's desert.
The official name of the color is
Desert
desert.
Storm.
Desert who?
Yeah. So, then some more stuff happens. I kind of had to look up the plot of this serial on the wiki to find out what happens because it's kind of just obtuse.
Didn't seem that obtuse to me.
It was
Seems pretty
I don't
obvious.
know, I mean, it was kind of just
They've got
like
that nuke there, and they're just
weird
using
things
that
happening.
archaeological site as a bombing ground.
They brought up the nuke like right at the beginning, and then brought it up again like right at the end. I was like, oh yeah, there's a nuke.
Yeah, there was a lot of clever foreshadowing in the serial, like the nuke, and like that time where the doctor offhandedly mentioned silver bullets, and the pig was like, "Do we have silver bullets?" And then the silver bullets were important later.
Yeah, it was more just like the doctor somehow knowing exactly what's going on. The nuke thing was kind of just them having to bring up the nuke at the beginning so that it's not just pulled out of their asses at the end.
It reminded
It's not really foreshadowing.
Yeah, it is.
It's like kind of,
The
but
bullets were definitely foreshadowing because I'm pretty sure the assumption is when the doctor brings up the silver bullets the first time is you think, well, what would be killed by silver bullets? Oh, werewolves, obviously.
I didn't think that.
You didn't think that at all?
No.
That's like generic werewolf lore is that they get killed by silver bullets. That's like the thing about werewolves.
Well, I didn't think that. Didn't come to mind at all. I think I knew that, and I really don't know. It didn't come up at all in Greatest Show in the Galaxy, the one with an actual werewolf.
Yeah, because they weren't trying to kill the werewolf.
Well, maybe what's his name was?
The explorer.
Explorer.
Pretty sure he would have done
Cook.
that ages ago. Then
I don't know. I don't know the inner workings of Cook's twisted mind.
anyway, the nuke reminded me of that. Do you remember that unit serial where they were transporting that other ballistic missile, and then there was that scene where Benton was standing by the missile, and it looks like he was just in a studio with.
Wait, what?
We mentioned this on the episode where he's standing in front of the missile, but the background, the like countryside, just looks like a painting that they had hung. He's just standing in front of the missile, like, "Oh yeah, I got this missile, Brig."
No, don't remember that at all.
That was a classic unit moment,
In a classic unit serial that I don't remember.
and a classic moment of low budgets.
Sounds pretty great, though. You
Yeah.
have to go back and find it. You don't remember what serial it's in.
No.
Okay, all right.
No, I don't.
Because I still have all of them on my computer. No, I don't.
I was gonna say that's okay. Anyway, so
Still have Pyramids of Mars.
to watch,
Yeah.
yeah, you do. So
I still have it like on my hard drive. It's still just sitting there waiting for me to watch it and delete it.
So, yeah, the doctor's got this distress signal from sideways in time, and Ace is like, "What does that mean?" He's like, "It means he comes from another parallel dimension." And Ace is like,
I
"Oh,
didn't get if
okay."
it was like a parallel dimension or like the past, and they have guns and like I don't know. I guess it was a
parallel
parallel
dimension.
dimension, but yeah.
Which
It's
is
also kinda
reinforced
weird.
later by the fact that I think it's the Brig. No, might be someone else is talking to Anselin and is like, "So in your universe, do you blankety blank blank?" And Anselin's like, "Yes."
Yeah, I didn't know if they were like going for like this is a different universe, and we didn't know that because it's like so far in the future, and then we just don't know about this technology and crap. I don't know. I guess it is a parallel thing.
Yeah. With
I guess that's where the destroyer's from as well.
so,
But I mean, it was also maybe not confusing, but also just yeah, I guess confusing considering they're all like mythological characters.
yeah.
Or like
I mean,
Morgan is
I guess there's supposed to be this implication that the alternate universe was the
pretty similar to this one.
inspiration for
Oh
the,
yeah, all right. That
for
too.
the
Stories.
legend. Yeah. Blanked for a second. Anyway, the doctor lands in just right next to this dirt road, and we we forgot to mention we meet Brigadier Bambera.
Oh yeah, Bambera. Yeah, they decided to introduce in this serial a lot of foreign unit characters and just play it off like, yeah, it's definitely not just British people in unit. It's the United Nations. So, yeah, these people were here all along and off screen.
Well, there's this fake out too because this person's like, hey, Brigadier, and you're like, oh, it's going to be the Brig. And it's like, nope, it's Bambera.
Yeah.
It's the new Brigadier.
The new better, I don't know if she's better. I mean, she might.
They're good in their own ways.
Yeah, but I mean, she's also worse in the fact that, like, she only has this serial and, like, barely any screen time. So it's like, obviously, you're more attached to the other Brig, the classic Brig.
Yeah, well, this Brig has a better uniform. Those blue hats are pretty sick. They're also the color of the UN flag, so now you know.
And knowing is half the battle. Unit. It's not G.I. Joe anymore. It's Unit. Taking on the agents of Cobra.
I watched that G.I. Joe movie that came out a couple years ago. It wasn't that great. Actually, I didn't even finish it. I got halfway through and I was like, yeah, I'm good, thanks.
You don't finish bad movies? I finish bad movies. I don't finish, like, bad books.
Yeah. I mean, I've sat through some pretty bad movies.
I always finish bad movies.
I think that's the only movie I've ever not finished, besides Top Gun. But anyway, that wasn't intentional, the Top Gun one. Anyway.
So you got shot right in the middle of it and had to get rushed to the hospital.
Yes. They had to remove it from my spleen.
And coincidentally, they were playing it at the hospital. No.
No, actually, they were playing G.I. Joe at the hospital. So the Doctor and Ace come in. Well, the Doctor pulls out these ancient unit passes that he's been hiding in his hat, except they're not. They're like third Doctor passes, and yet they're hiding in his hat somehow, which means he at some point made the conscious decision to put the passes in this hat.
No, maybe they were just stuck in his curly mane for his entire, all his transformations.
Peter Davison didn't have curly hair, though. I mean,
yeah, they were just stuck in his straight
oddly enough,
mane.
Tom Baker and Colin Baker both did.
Yeah, they were just stuck in their curly/straight manes.
So, yeah, Ace has got Liz Shaw's unit ID, which means that the third Doctor even hung on to these for, like, years.
Yeah, why not? They could have come in handy, and the Doctor's obviously a hoarder, so...
I'm just imagining him handing these passes to Bambera, and there's just a picture of the third Doctor with this massive mane of gray hair, and she looks up, and there's this seventh Doctor standing right there like, wait a minute.
You know what, I think this checks out. You know, you're good to go.
No, she actually does the exact opposite. She kicks them out and keeps the passes, so... the Doctor's going to have new ones made up. Or
just plastic surgery himself into the third Doctor. Ace can plastic surgery herself into Liz Shaw.
Great. Great.
Yep.
Apparently, just having the Doctor show up is enough of an important event that they recall the Brig to duty.
Yeah, because meanwhile, the Brig has been called away from his gardening duty
by Geneva.
Into active duty by Geneva, who won't leave him alone after all these years. He tries to play it off like, just tell him I'm not here, and
Must
they
be
know
like
he's
60 there. Now.
They know he's there.
They're like, is the Brig telling you to tell us when he's not there again? Just put him on the line, Doris.
I mean, Unit probably keeps tabs on the Brig, considering he knows all this classified information about all the aliens that have attacked Earth. Which is a pretty scary thought. Just having this task force monitor you 24/7, kind of like the government. Like the actual government that monitors people here in this country.
They're probably listening right now.
Hope they like it.
If we don't make it out alive.
Yeah, we really...
You know who did it?
There's really grounds to, like, off us in this podcast. We definitely know more than we're letting on.
Yeah, we know classified information about all these aliens who've invaded Earth with a modern-day unit.
Anyway, the Brig's called away. He takes a helicopter to the site that Unit and the Doctor is at.
Actually, he takes a helicopter to London first.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, he went to London.
I was wondering why that helicopter ride took, like, more than a day.
Because he went to London first, I guess to fill out some paperwork. The only way I figured this out was because there's a scene where they're flying in the helicopter. She's like, all right, I'm going to bring him in. And then the next scene, they're flying again. And the Brig's like, so that trip to London went pretty well, right?
Oh.
She's like, yeah, it was pretty good. And he's like, well, I got all the stuff filled out, I guess.
Yeah, I guess I missed that because I was like, I wonder why it's suddenly morning and the Brig is here. Like, why did that helicopter ride take more than a day?
Because they went to London.
I guess I know that
You'd think
now.
that they would expedite his helicopter trip a little bit more when there's just a nuke sitting right next to this lake.
No, apparently not.
So the Doctor and Ace make it to this. Well, they get so Bambera drives by and doesn't pick them up. She's,
Wow.
don't pick them up. And then they get a ride from this local crazy man who's been excavating this archaeological site for 10 years and has only gotten like half a meter into the ground.
Yeah, doesn't he says later, like, an entire year only results in, like, a centimeter of excavation with a plot this big.
I think he's just moving very slowly, to be honest.
Yeah, but archaeology is like a fine method. You can't just go blowing stuff up.
That sounds like a challenge.
To Ace?
Yes.
Because that's exactly what she does.
Yes.
Possibly destroying hundreds or thousands of years worth of British history in the process. Yeah, we didn't need it anyway.
She's just destroyed the Doctor's message to himself in his garbage handwriting. Anyway, so there's this blind lady there, and this
Who works at
Chinese
the Gore
lady?
Yes, Chinese at the Gore Crow Inn. Edgiest name for an inn ever. I can just imagine, like, back in the day when, like, most people were illiterate, so they just had pictures on the signs instead of writing, and it's just like a gored out dead crow. It's like, hey, want to drop by the Gore Crow Inn?
Yeah, no, I think I'm good. I think I'll stay at the not Gourd Crow Inn.
I think I'll stay at the deceased Mule Inn.
This town just keeps naming their things after dead animals. The decaying rat in the grocery store.
Oh, Jesus. Anyway, yeah, the owners of the Gore Crow Inn are this married couple. The wife is blind, and the husband is, for some reason, really bitter, and yeah.
This is because no one likes his beer that he makes in his barn outside of the inn. That has to be a safety violation of some sort.
Yeah, it's 97.
Well, the Doctor and Ace order lemonade, and the Doctor pays with pounds, and Ace is like, what? And he's like, this is the future, Ace. Everything's more expensive.
Yeah, Ace wants like a vodka and water or something, and the Doctor's like, no.
The Doctor's also probably like, you're underage, Ace.
Ace is like, you're not my dad. I'll have whatever I want. No, she actually doesn't say that.
To which the Doctor would be like, well, then I guess I'm not letting you back on the TARDIS, Ace.
No, she actually just orders a lemonade.
Then the girl is like, oh yeah, good choice. Don't try the beer, it's pretty bad.
Apparently the glass of water cost money. Not sure what kind of establishment this guy's running.
No, you're just used to California. California has a law where they have to provide you for water for free. Other places don't. Like, when I went to South Africa, they charged for water.
Wow. Isn't that like a nationwide thing? Like, water's free everywhere in the U.S.?
It might be, I'm not sure.
I think it is. I'm not sure, though. That's kind of a jerk move, though. Like, what if this dying guy, like, crawls
Better hope you
in?
have money.
Oh, Jesus. Anyway, wow.
This is a surprisingly death-filled episode of Trust Your Doctor this
Yeah,
week.
it's the most morbid episode in a while. Just wait till we get to episode 4.
When that body flies across the screen. Anyway, so...
He wasn't confirmed dead. He's probably dead.
He's probably dead.
Anyway, we meet Shu Ying, or whatever her name was. The serial, there's a lot of, like, messages in this serial.
Shu
Ying.
Yuing?
I don't know.
She can be Shu.
Shu, okay. Or maybe it's Shao.
Oh, God.
Or maybe it's Shou. I don't know. I'm just going to say Shu.
Yeah, because Shu has that funny unintentional double entendre with shoes.
Yeah.
Maybe we shouldn't call her Shoe then.
Yeah. I don't really know. There's a lot of like messages in this serial about race and also, or
Yeah, the Doctor's
like maybe
super anti-war in this serial.
that too, and like gender, I guess.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And honestly, obviously I don't know too much about any of these topics, but honestly seems like this serial was dealing with them in like, yeah, the messages in the end were good, but like in kind of a crude way. Like kind of that,
Like that second Peladon
1989
serial.
way. Sure. But like, I guess even more crude since it's like on Earth and actually has to do with some sort of real world type stuff.
I guess we'll get to episode 4, but episode 4 is very hasty to me and very hastily resolved.
I guess, yeah. I mean, sure.
We're not at the end of episode 1. So the Doctor finds this scabbard, and that's how episode 1 ends. The scabbard's like shaking on the wall, and he's like, well, that's suspicious.
Yeah, the dig site, they're trying to uncover
it's
some
on
like
an ancient Native American burial ground.
in Britain. No, no, it's the dude is like from the Big Lebowski. No, that was that guy's name, right? The dude. Anyway, no, the excavator guy is like trying to excavate the stuff from the Arthurian legends, and like they're right by the lake where supposedly they threw the sword in at the end of the legend or whatever it was.
Turns out they did. Just happened to be enclosed in a spaceship when they did.
Or was it that they threw the sword in at the end? I don't know. I never read those stories.
I don't know the story of King Arthur.
I read Gawain and the Green Knight. It was a pretty interesting story.
It's not King Arthur, though.
He's in it. He has like one line.
We should just watch that Guy Ritchie movie that's coming out soon.
What? I haven't even heard about that.
The King Arthur one that Guy Ritchie's directing. It's called Arthur, Legend of the Sword.
Keeping up that tradition of generically named Arthur things that this apparently started. No, it was actually started by Mort to Arthur. It's a pretty generic name.
So, yeah, episode 2, the Doctor's like, well, we should probably figure out what the hell's going on here. And, well, actually, no. So episode 1 ends with him busting into the brewery. Brewery.
Yeah, the like back room type area.
That's a hard word.
We've actually had these like cuts, these scenes of like some knights traipsing around the forest, like forest, fighting it out, like in what's it called, Monty Python and the Holy Grail, which is probably the most famous like medieval thing in the U.S.
Probably. But yeah, Anselin shows up and he's like, Merlin! And the Doc's like, what? And Anselin's like, yeah, you're Merlin. And he's like, what? He hasn't been Merlin yet, apparently.
The Doctor's like, oh yeah, I'm Merlin. Yeah, totally. And then Bambera busts in and she's like, put your hands up.
And then the other knights bust in and they're like, put your hands up.
And then episode 1 ends.
Yeah, the knights kind of bounce between using guns and swords, which is a bit odd. They use guns when they show up and they use swords later.
Yeah, but it's like that, I don't know if this is like a TV tropes thing or whatever, but it's like swords are cooler than guns or whatever. I don't know. I think
they are.
Yeah.
Get that 6 sword fight later.
So is Anselin like an actual character from the myth, or is he just someone they made up?
I don't know.
Well, Morgan definitely is. I'm pretty sure Mordred is as well.
Yeah. I think you mean Morgaine.
Yeah, I'm just going to call it Morgan.
Morgaine. It's spelt Morgaine in the credits.
It's Morgan in like it's Morgan Le Fay, so like that's who she is. So I'm just gonna call her Morgan, even though they did call her Morgaine in the serial. But that's never stopped me from
Maybe
anything.
it got corrupted when they wrote the legend down from Morgaine to Morgan.
Oh yeah, probably did. It's probably the same name, just with different pronunciations, because language was a lot more fluid like before the 20th century. So yeah. So I'm gonna call her Morgan, though.
She's played by Jean Marsh, a.k.a. Sarah Kingdom.
Coming back after all these years.
Oh yeah, apparently she was married to John Pertwee for a couple of years, too.
Wow. That's quite a bit of trivia there.
Yeah, so if you ever a Doctor Who trivia night and they're like, this person was married to the third Doctor, you can be like, that was Jean Marsh. Probably. I don't know what kind of trivia night asks you about the personal lives of the actors who played the Doctors, but...
My kind of trivia night. That's what kind. So, as for some more trivia about knights, the knights in this serial are like, hey, put your hands up. And the Doctor's like, no, we don't need to resolve this with violence. And Bambero's like, oh, yes, we do.
And the Doctor's like, no, we don't. We can just resolve it with the threat of violence.
Because this is when the Doctor starts pretending to be Merlin and threatening people to cast magic spells and stuff.
Yeah, Mordred's like, well, I'm out. So they bail.
Yeah, Mordred and Anselin have like sort of a rivalry, I guess.
Yeah.
I think Anselin is like an actual character who had a rivalry with Mordred from
Might be.
the legend. I'm just making this up, but it seems right, so...
So, yeah, they go inside and they're like, wonder what's taking the Brigadier so long, the other Brigadier. And for basically all of episode 2, he's just on that helicopter. There's just shots of him in that helicopter, and he's like, yeah, it's pretty good, Lieutenant. And she's like, yeah, this is going pretty well. Nice helicopter flight we've
yeah, the dialogue was kind
here.
of awkward, I guess.
I mean, it's kind of difficult to write dialogue for a helicopter ride, to be fair.
So, how about that weather?
What weather?
They should have just made it super funny with, like, one of them trying to, like, create small talk, and the other one is just like, yeah, whatever. Just completely playing it off. I don't know.
Yeah, well.
Lavella, or whatever her name
Lavelle.
was. Lavelle.
Flight Lieutenant Lavelle.
Dies later, like, pretty much right away, so, yeah.
Rip. Rest in peace.
Rest in pepperoni.
Oh, yeah, Bambero's, like,
recently,
right-hand
for some reason.
man is this Czechoslovakian, I think, dude.
I thought he was Polish.
Okay, he might have been
what I
Polish.
know.
Okay, he might have been Polish, and Lavelle might have been Czechoslovakian. I don't remember anymore. But they made a joke about it later, and I was like, wow, guys. Wow.
They did?
Yeah,
Guess I missed that.
Maybe they can help translate that guy's words or whatever. It was somewhere.
All right, sounds like a terrible joke, but...
It was.
I
It was
mean,
more
not-
vaguely racist than anything.
I mean, yeah, not only in the fact that it's vaguely racist, because, yeah, I probably shouldn't say this, but... but just more in the fact that it's, like, not even funny at all.
So, what happens in episode 2?
Yeah, that's what I want to know. Ace and the Doctor somehow make their way down into the lake.
Oh yeah, the brig lands. Morgane shoots the brig down because she's like, let's see what these people can do, and she shoots her down. And the brig comes up and is like, who are you? And she's like, I'm Morgane. He's like, well, I'm the brig, and if you try to invade this world, I'm gonna have to kill you. And she's like, yeah, right. And then she just lets him go for some reason.
Yeah, there's like this really awkward cut. It cuts to something else, and then it cuts back to this scene, and the brig's like, he does that really terrible like exposition thing. He's like, so let me get this straight. You mean to tell me that blah, 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 blah. And she's like, yep. I think it was something like, so you came to this world from another dimension to pay respect to the dead.
Fallen of World War 1 or 2, I think.
1 and 2, I think he says. And she's like, your words are unfamiliar, but yes.
And the brig's like, all right then, bye.
The brig kind of just like takes it in stride. I mean, if someone told you like, your words are unfamiliar, but haha, yep, just gonna go with that, then I'd just be like, you probably didn't get what I said at all.
I mean, yeah, but it's always been the brig's character that is a little bit dense.
Yeah. And it is in his character to be more willing to like commit acts of violence than the Doctor, but he shows a lot of killing intent in this serial. Like a lot more than usual. Maybe his years in retirement
Yeah, he's trying to make up for all
him.
those years where he was off. And I was going to say maybe that marriage just gave him some suicidal
Jesus.
tendencies.
Suicidal.
I mean, he kind of just runs into that castle at the
that's
end.
true. Yeah, so, but then Morgan is like, hey, Brig, next time we meet, I'm going to kill you. The Brig's like, that's fair.
Yeah, he's like, okay. he just takes that in stride too. Someone threatens your life and he's just okay with it.
So Mordred is Morgan's son. Just thought I'd mention that in case we didn't mention it. I wasn't sure if we did. But I think if you're familiar with the legends / stories, then you probably know that. If it's part of the story, I really don't know.
Yeah, so the Doctor and Ace go into the hole that what's-his-name was digging, and they find this stone, and the Doctor's like, oh, it says dig here in my handwriting, and the guy's like, what? So Ace is like, oh, blow it up, and she's like, yeah, 60 seconds should be good, and it goes off like 20 seconds later, and the Doctor says his funny line is like, Ace, someday you and I are going to have a talk about acceptable safety parameters. So really looking forward to that in the next 3 series. No. Just dedicate like 15 minutes to this talk. Hey, they go back to that the roots of the show, which was to randomly explain things because it was supposed to be an educational show. I was listening to Crinoid podcast, and then I remembered that, in Edge of Destruction, they spend a solid 5 minutes explaining how a spring works when they find out the spring is why the fast return switch is stuck down. I was like, oh yeah, that's what this show used to do.
Yeah, I guess. I honestly don't think I noticed it that much when watching those older episodes, but yeah, I guess it's true. So yeah, they continue to head into this corridor. It connects into the hold that's in the lake, which is also a spaceship, I guess.
Yeah, the door closes behind them, and Ace is like, what? And the Doctor like really nonchalantly goes, oh yeah, don't worry, it's just a trap.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Ace is like, okay. So they go in, and then there's Excalibur stabbed through Arthur. Or at least I thought it was stabbed through Arthur,
I don't think it's
but
stabbed
it's not.
through him. He's just near.
I don't think it is.
He's just very close to it. Dead.
So Ace grabs it and pulls it, and the Doctor's like, no! And she pulls it, and she's like, what? It's not like I'm the King of England. And she just pulls it out easily. And I really thought that the next 2 episodes would be Ace wielding Excalibur versus Morgaine in place of Arthur, but that's too cool for this show. So.
I guess so. It was kind of, well, she does hold it. But yeah, so Excalibur is just in a pedestal, not really in a stone. So
yeah, it's just chilling.
Yeah,
and then this thing attacks them, and Ace gets trapped in this tank of water.
Yeah, it was this like ghostly green snake guy.
It's the Mara. Tegan, what have you done?
Yeah, and then Ace gets trapped in like the vat or whatever, and that's the end of 2.
Apparently, Sophie Aldred almost died in that tank. Because apparently there was a crack and some of the water was leaking very close to this electrical wiring. And Sylvester McCoy noticed it and no one else did. But to make sure that everybody knew that he wasn't in character when he told them to get her out of there, he started swearing on camera to make sure everybody knew he wasn't in character when he told them that...
it's actually a pretty smart idea.
She was...
Like, I wouldn't have thought of that.
Yeah, so... He says he remembers it as probably the only time on the show where he was the hero instead of the 7th Doctor.
Huh.
You're a hero, Sylvester McCoy. Yeah, so she came out of it okay. They fixed up the tank, everything was good. In episode 3, she just escapes because the Doctor flips the switch and the tank drains. Actually, the tank doesn't drain. The tank shoots her out of the lake. I forgot about that.
Yeah, the excavator dude is like, hey, what's that? Hey, is that Ace?
Well, he's... So when the Doctor and Ace go into the tunnel, the Doctor's like, make sure no one follows us. And he's like, what am I supposed to do? Lecture them about archaeology? And the Doctor's like, yes. So he's doing that, and he's like, yeah, so there's this theory that when Arthur returns, Excalibur will come shooting out of the lake, and then you just see Ace and Excalibur come flying out of the lake.
Right, because they're also evacuating the area, possibly due to the dig, but also because of the nuclear stuff.
Yeah, possibly due to that nuke they're just hanging on to.
Yeah, I guess the serial also had to do with like nuclear disarmament, which was like a kind of big thing, like in the late 90s.
That was the whole ending. The whole ending was just straight up nuclear disarmament speech. The Doctor's speech to Morgaine. That somehow resolved the entire serial. I have a problem with that, by the way.
What, the Doctor's speech?
No,
thing
the
that
fact,
I usually
the
have a
fact
problem
that the
with.
speech ended the serial just it was done after that, but we'll get there.
You mean you didn't like that second Peloton extra 15 minutes they tacked on?
No.
I always forget what the second Peloton cereal is, whether it's Monster or Curse.
I don't remember either.
Yeah.
So the doctor gets saved by the brig, and the brig's like, always have to rescue you, doctor. And the doctor's like, so you recognize me? He's like, who else would be stuck in a spaceship at the bottom of a goddamn lake being crushed by a green snake, doctor?
So
He
yeah,
doesn't say that, but that's the meaning.
it was kind of weird that like they're bringing the brig back, and he doesn't really have much of a role in episodes 1 and 2. I mean, obviously it's just because he doesn't in the story, and it doesn't make sense for him to in this story. But it sort of begs the question, like, why doesn't he have a big role in the first 2 episodes of the story?
I guess that's just because how they wrote it, I suppose. I guess they realized that it'd be better if he showed up more in 3 and 4 than 1 and 2, because I guess they were like, we need some way to introduce him to the doctor, so...
Yeah, it's just a little weird they're introducing, or like the doctor and the brig meet up so late into the serial, or like halfway through.
I also think they wanted to get in a scene where the brig saves the doctor, which they do again later, but where the brig saves the doctor and not the other way around, which is kind of the norm for the unit era, where the doctor would be the one saving the brig. So
yeah,
I don't know though. Anyway, then they go to the house, and the brig's like, so I got you a present, doctor. And the doctor's like, what? And he's like, so I had this mothballed when you bailed on us back when you regenerated into the 4th incarnation, but here you go, it's Bessie.
Bessie!
And the doctor's like, damn, I was hoping it would be the Who-mobile.
And Ace is like, what's this hunk of junk? Does this even start?
And
apparently
like,
they tuned her up.
Well, the doctor's always tuned up Bessie. Don't you remember in the 5 Doctors when you're just blazing down that road at like 1,000,000 miles an hour?
Now that you mention it, yeah, I do remember that.
Anyway, the doctor gives Ace a piece of chalk and is like, stay inside the chalk circle.
Stay in school. I'm just kidding.
Stay in school, Ace.
Don't drop out of it into a alternate planet.
Yeah, the doctor's doing that thing where he has an overly complex and 20-step plan again.
Yeah, it's kind of the norm for the 7th Doctor.
Except this time they switch it because he's just a pawn in his future / possibly alternate self's game, I guess. The Merlin
I think
Doctor.
It was future.
I think the reason why I think they tried to make it so that you could imagine it either way you want.
I guess so. There were a lot of like also character moments between like Ace and Shu, I guess, that we glossed over. But yeah, it was just them developing their friendship, I guess.
Well, the wiki describes Shu as a kindred spirit to Ace because they both like explosives. And Ace tells the story about how she blew up some pottery when she was in school.
Oh yeah, there was that weird story about Ace bringing like explosives to school, and I was like, yeah, that wouldn't fly in today's society.
Yeah, she'd probably be locked up for domestic terrorism if she did that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so... the doctor leaves with the brig in Bessie to go do who knows what. And he leaves Ace with Excalibur. He's like, all right, you've got Excalibur, so, don't let Morgaine have it at any costs. Protect this with your life.
Except at the cost of millions. Who doesn't want to be a millionaire?
I wouldn't let it go for billions.
That sick crown looks pretty expensive.
The one on Morgaine's head?
Yeah.
Classic Morgaine. So, the doctor and the brig. So, we forgot to mention that Ansel and Bambera, first of all, have teamed up, I guess. The brig, there's like this mildly sexist stuff the
like
brig does.
Budding romance between Bambera and Ansel and like a, what's it called?
I mean, when Bambera asks Ansel if he's betrothed, and then Ansel asks Bambera if she's betrothed?
Yeah. There's like a love-hate relationship. Doesn't amount to anything in the end.
Well, there's also the brig. It's either mild sexism or mild holier-than-thou attitude towards Bambera because he keeps basically steamrolling over Bambera.
Yeah.
Oh, this is where the silver bullets thing happens because the brig's like, units advanced quite a bit since your last visit, Doctor. We have Teflon-coated bullets now for Daleks. We have gold-coated bullets for you-know-who, a.k.a. them Cybermen. And the doc's like, do you have silver bullets? The Brig's like, I don't know. Then he calls over to Lieutenant. He's like, Lieutenant, do we have silver bullets?
The Lieutenant's like, I don't report to you. No, he doesn't say that.
It's really funny because the Brig put on his like 20-year-old uniform, which looks super out of date with all the other unit uniforms, and they're like, what? They're like, what is this senile old man doing?
Right, they call Bambera Sir.
Yeah.
Which is like in line with that. I don't know too much about feminism, but I'm probably going to say some stupid crap here, but it's in line with that like feminist movement, I think, in the like late 70s and 80s, where it's like, women should really try to fulfill the roles that men traditionally fill. That's like the whole Hillary Clinton thing, like, I guess I could have stayed home and baked cookies, like that kind of thing. Whereas like later movements, like in the 90s or whatever, was like, embrace like the feminine qualities or whatever, which is also like kind of weird considering that the feminine and masculine qualities are just like thousands of years old and are subscribing to like probably out of date things. So it's kind of weird that I mean both sides are kind of weird to me in that one asks you to embrace and one asks you to like reject and embrace another probably sexist idea. But hey, I don't know.
Yeah, well,
I mean, I don't know enough about it, nor am I going to like learn that much more about it, probably.
I think at the end of the story, Briggs like, yep, you're probably a better Brig than I am. I'm going to go back and retire to my countryside to do more gardening.
Yeah, that.
The doctor makes supper. The doctor makes supper. Anyway, so Ace and Shu are in this chalk circle, and then they start hearing things from the other person. She was like, I'm not stupid. And Ace is like, yeah, you are, you yellow.
Yeah, that
blank,
was,
blank,
yeah,
blank.
Yeah, it was, wow. I know I said racist jokes are funny earlier on, but not cool, Ace. Well, this isn't a racist joke, and I do think context is like super important for you to tell racist jokes.
True. But it's not a joke. It was just
no,
racism.
It wasn't a joke. It was just a racist comment.
So it depends. Either you think Ace is like suppressing racist beliefs, or you think the magic is making her say racist things.
I thought it was the former, because I thought my understanding of the magic in this scene, or like Morgane's like suggestion or whatever, was that she was just controlling what they heard and not what they actually said. Otherwise, because that's why their conversation doesn't make sense. Because Ace is like, what? You just called me an idiot. And then she was like, no, you just called me stupid or whatever they say. But we don't hear that at all.
But we do hear Shu directly call Ace dumb when they stand up and face each other.
Yeah, I think that was after they were already mad. And she was just like, hey, you're real dumb. So I don't know. Yeah.
There's this cool effect, at least, where there's light on the circle of chalk and everything else is dark.
Yeah, it looks cool. I mean, I guess it's just a spotlight, I guess. So,
but they lined it up really nicely, so...
But I don't think we actually even mentioned what the circle is. Apparently it keeps Morgan and her magic out, and the doctor told Ace to draw it so that Morgan can't get Excalibur.
My weakness, chalk. Learning, my one weakness.
But yeah, I mean, it's probably like the magic controlling Ace. Like they probably wouldn't just write this racist quality into a character.
Like that'd be really weird. And also, like as soon as Ace's head falls out of the circle, she realizes what she said, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, magic's making us do some stuff," and they hug it out.
Yeah. I know this serial was like trying to say a lot about race and ethnicity and stuff like that, but I don't think they should have really included this, especially when it's resolved like half a second later.
It tried to say too much, I think, about too many things.
I guess that's true. And like I said before, I also think it dealt with a lot of these things in like a really crude way, a really crude late 80s way. There were also a bunch of other scenes I think we skipped over, like what's her name regaining her sight, which wasn't that important.
Morgan gives the blind person her sight back. We forgot to. We skipped to the scene where the doctors apparently learned how to hypnotize people from the master because he does that too.
Well, the doctor's always like kind of hypnotized people.
I mean, but never like this. Not like this.
Because
the people don't want to evacuate, and he just kind of stares into their eyes and is like, "You want to evacuate?"
He Jedi mind tricks them.
And they're like, "We want to evacuate." And he's like, "You're not going to give us any trouble." He's like, "We're not going to give him any trouble, right?" So yeah, that was a little weird.
Yeah, it was.
The doctor also he puts his fingers on Mordred's head in episode 4, and that immediately instantly puts him to sleep. So that was interesting too.
Yeah. Other things we skipped, and this is a lot. Morgan killing Lavelle. Anslin and Mordred confronting each other. The battle starting near the excavation site.
Oh yeah, a bunch of people die.
Yep. The Knights versus the unit soldiers. So more unit casualties after all these years.
More Knight casualties after all these years since the Crusades.
And there's another big thing we skipped. Not big, but like semi-important. Whatever. Oh yeah, Morgan and Mordred discussing how Morgan thought that she thought she was invading a land where the people are just savages. They don't bury their dead, or like they don't care about an honorable death or whatever. That was like way at the beginning.
That line kind of makes me think it's an alternate universe type thing.
Probably. And Mordred's like, I didn't know. Sorry, Mom.
Mordred, mama's boy.
Yeah, Anslin makes fun of him for it later.
Mordred does have some sick burns, though, when he goes into the bar to get a drink, and the blind lady's like, help me. And her husband comes in.
Oh, I thought you meant sideburns.
No, sick burns, where he's like, oh, no wonder. Like, the only way she'd be married to you is if she was blind. And he's like, wow, you're a dick, Mordred. Anyway, so the doctor is going to kill Mordred, but he can't bring himself to do it because he'll make other people kill people, but he won't do it himself. Because the Brig immediately shows up and puts a gun to Mordred's head, and the doctor's like, this is the way, Brig. And the Brig's like, right, doctor, how well did your way work not 5 seconds ago? The doctor's like, oh, darn.
Yep.
So they take Mordred back to the house where Ace has given Morgaine Excalibur.
Yeah.
And the doctor's like, good, I expected you to do that. We can find lots of Excaliburs, but there's only one Ace.
Yeah, because there was this thing before, I think the Brig mentioned it to Ace, like, oh, you're just the newest companion or whatever.
Ace is like, wow.
And it's like, there's like a gender quality to it, since most of the Doctor's companions are like young women.
There's a bit of a gender quality to it, but also I think the Brig just like...
Yeah, it's the Brig tinging it with that, obviously.
Ace obviously resents that. Ace is kind of also the hero in this story. She's the one who finds the silver bullets and brings them to the Doctor and the Brig. There's this thing, I guess, where they've developed in the Doctor and Ace's relationship, which I actually like, where the Doctor tells Ace to not come with him, but he knows that Ace is going to come with him anyway. Like, he does it at the start where he's like, you two stay outside the brewery. Then they open the door and they immediately follow them in. Or like right now when he's like, stay here, and then she immediately follows through the time corridor anyway. I don't know, I just think it's funny that the Doctor still tells her not to come even though he knows she's going to come anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's sort of like the whole Seventh Doctor character trait of being like kind of patronizing.
I don't feel like he was patronizing towards Ace in this serial. I actually liked this relationship between him and Ace in this serial. I thought it was at its best so far.
Yeah, I did think so too, with all the like funny moments, like when the thing explodes and they like get caught up in it or whatever. But I mean, it's not just towards Ace; it's towards like the villains as well in a lot of the serials.
Yeah, I guess he's lived 900 years and finds himself above all those villains now.
I mean, I don't know. I always say this, but I'll judge him more
at the end.
Completely at the end.
So yeah, they go to confront Morgaine, who summoned the Destroyer, and then
the Destroyer,
she lets the Destroyer loose.
The Destroyer is in silver handcuffs, and he's being controlled by Morgaine. And he's like, you fear me, Morgaine. That's why I'm in these silver handcuffs. She's like, no, actually, no. And he's just like, then why am I in these silver handcuffs? You should let me go.
She's like, I'm using you as a bargaining chip, you dumbo. She lets him go. Brig tries to shoot him. Doesn't work. And the doctor's like, why? And the Brig's like, nothing ventured, nothing gained, doctor.
Yep, so bring back that unit trope of just trying conventional
just
weapons.
gunning everything down first, and then if that doesn't work, giving up until the doctor gives you a solution.
Yeah, pretty much.
So
we didn't mention that the Destroyer is like this demonic entity that's bent on devouring the world.
I mean,
they mentioned like, hey, why do you want to control the world? And he's like, to devour it, obviously. And I was like, what? I should have just known that? Like, that you were going to devour it?
He's in the serial for 15 minutes because A shows up with the silver bullets, and the doctor's like, Ace, silver bullets. And she's like, how did you even know I had those? And he's like, because I'm the bloody doctor, Ace.
I kind of liked the Destroyer because I liked his costume. And I think
his costume was cool.
Yeah, his costume was cool. I think his actor was pretty. He pulled off the whole scary thing pretty well. He also did the whole thing where he draws out his lines a lot, which added to his like scariness, which every other serial specific character, maybe except like Morgaine and Mordred, did, and maybe Anselin too, but everyone else pretty much did that in this.
Great.
And it was kind of annoying, especially the archaeologist guy.
Well, my problem with the Destroyer was he didn't really
He just showed up in the last 15 minutes.
Yeah, he didn't need to be there because Morgaine was the enemy, and she summoned him, I guess, to threaten Ace to get the sword, but then she like just lets him go, and then he's immediately killed. Like, I feel like he would have been better if he was either the main villain or just didn't show up at all.
Or maybe had some like dialogue with Morgaine, like maybe as
or it showed up earlier to be more of a secondary antagonist than just a
I guess so.
thing.
Or, I mean, had some dialogue with Morgaine, like, throughout the entire serial. Like, she summoned him in the beginning, and she was all leading up to trying to use the Destroyer or whatever.
Yeah.
And maybe not even shown up. Maybe just been, like, obscured by the darkness. Or, like, an off-screen voice talking to Morgaine or something. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah.
So his demonic appearance is, like, a surprise.
Surprise! It's a demon. Well...
It's, what's his face from the demons? That gargoyle guy. We
should have got a 5 rounds rapid reference in this.
Yeah, we should have.
So,
And a heat shield, no.
The Brig knocks the doctor out, and Ace is like, oh, you bastard. Well, she doesn't say that, but she kind of does. And the Brig runs in, he's like, sorry, doctor, you're too important to die here. Which is also pretty much keeping in character with the Brig. He runs in and he guns down the Destroyer with the silver bullet. The Destroyer's like, what are you going to do to me, puny human? And the Brig's like, this, and just shoots him, and he dies. And the Destroyer was like, oops.
No!
And then the Brig gets crushed under rubble, and the doctor's like, no, you're supposed to die in your bed. And you're like, wait, what? You know when he dies?
I thought he was just like, I thought it just meant that the doctor thinks he's supposed to die a peaceful death, not that he necessarily knows exactly when the Brig is going to die, but maybe he does.
The Brig dies in his bed.
Okay.
In the reboot, the doctor's just in his TARDIS, he gets a phone call, and it's like, oh, the Brig died peacefully in his sleep last night.
Maybe it wasn't in his bed, maybe it was just in his sleep, in a gutter.
I'm pretty sure they actually explicitly say in his bed to make it a reference to this.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then he's like, I wouldn't stay in the castle when it blew up, doctor. And the doctor's like, oh yeah, good point.
Now
he goes to confront Morgan, who's used Bambera to get Morgan's bamboozled Bambera to get the nuke with it.
I kind of forgot there was a nuke until right now, because it comes up like at the beginning and then not much.
Well, the doctor comes in now, and this is when he makes a speech, which the speech itself I don't have a problem with. My problem was that he says the speech, and then Morgan, who's spent this entire serial antagonizing the doctor, just is like, oh, you're right, and just turns herself in. The doctor's like, Arthur's dead because they blew up the spaceship, and she's like, oh, well, I guess I have nothing to live for anymore. I'll turn myself in. And he's like, what?
Yeah, I guess that was the whole thing, like, Arthur's dead, and she's like, wait a minute, Arthur's dead?
Yeah.
Guess my entire life has no purpose anymore.
Yeah, kind of undermines her whole motivation. Like, her motivation was to fight Arthur, and then Arthur's dead, so she like did all of this for no reason.
I thought she was just going to use the Destroyer to destroy the entire world, because Arthur would be like, hey, don't destroy the entire world. She's just like, haha, no, I'm going to do it anyway.
Oh yeah, there's another funny scene actually with the Doctor, where it's pretty much confirmed that Merlin was the Doctor because there's a note in Arthur's helmet, and the note's like, "Dear Doctor, Arthur's
Congrats
dead.
on
Died in the final
succeeding."
battle."
Yeah.
And then it ends with "from the Doctor," and then Ace is like, "Oh wait, there's a P.S. P.S. Morgan has acquired a nuke." And the Doctor's like, "Well, he could have given me more warning." And yeah, so it ends with the girls going out for a girls' night out, I guess. You know, Doris, Bambera, Ace, and Shu, and the Brig and Anselin are going to do some gardening while the Doctor makes supper.
Yep. Was it that the Doctor was going to make supper? I couldn't understand that last line.
Yeah, he said, "I'll make
there.
supper."
Oh.
Because Doris made a joke about the Brig's like, "What about supper?" And Doris is like, "Oh yeah, have something tasty ready when I get back." So the Doctor's like, "I'll make supper."
Yeah.
He's getting out of that gardening duty. Smart man. Now
he's getting into that
really
cooking
shows intelligence.
duty.
Yeah.
I'd rather cook than garden,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Yeah. So would I. And that's how it ends.
Yeah. Oh, they go in Bessie. We didn't mention that.
Oh yeah. Ace like really likes Bessie now.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I thought this was a hunk of junk.
The Doctor's like, enjoy it while it lasts, Ace. We're not taking her with us.
It wouldn't fit through the doors. Well, actually, maybe it would fit through the doors of the TARDIS.
They can just cram it in and like scrape the sides.
Just have it just
knock the mirrors off.
Just plant it in the console room like, yeah, it's Bessie. And, yeah, overall, I don't know. I really liked episodes 1 through 3. And then episode 4 I felt was super rushed and kind of, I don't know.
I mean, yeah, it kind of just introduces the Destroyer, I think, like right at the end of 3. And then it's just like, surprise, the Brig just killed him. I don't know. I didn't really care for 1, 2, and 3 that much. I mean, I didn't think there was anything necessarily bad about them. It's just like nothing really stood out to me as that great from them. So,
yeah, I thought this serial was kind of just above mediocre, I guess.
Yeah, and like we keep mentioning, it probably did try and have too much of that. Well, maybe I don't want to say too much of the real world connection because you can have like a huge real world connection and pull it off well.
Yeah,
but just maybe deal with way too many topics.
Yeah, I think I think the problem was it dealt with too many topics. Like if they had stuck to, I don't know, just like an anti-war sentiment, they could have made it really strong. Or if they just stuck to just the gender thing or just the race thing, because like arguably they're not all that strongly correlated with each other, those 3 issues. I mean, they're vaguely correlated, but like
gender and race more so than like
than gender and anti-war and race and anti-war.
I mean, there is like a gender component to anti-war stuff. If you look up like, I don't know, 20th century like history of anti-war protests, there's, I don't know, you can find info about it. But at the same time, it's a 4-episode serial, so how much time and space do they really have to work with? Not much, so maybe just limit it to like 1 thing, possibly 2 if they can somehow.
If they're really ambitious.
Yeah.
The serial was extremely ambitious. I did really like the character relationship between the Doctor and Ace in this serial, though.
Yeah.
I feel like Sylvester McCoy's finally nailed down that balance between snarky and angry.
With 3 more stories left, so...
I mean, to be fair, he took the usual time to nail down, because usually it takes them a season. They just changed it 1 season in.
Yeah. I mean, wasn't necessarily his fault, but
no.
It still doesn't have much time left to work with it.
No. He has lots of audios, though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, going back to the whole, like, they tried to deal with too many topics type thing. It's just like, even I mentioned it before that like they dealt with it in kind of a crude way, and yeah, I do think that's definitely true. Mm-hmm. But a lot of the things, not a lot, but like some of the times, it's just, to me, it was like they brought it up and they're like, okay, where are they going with this? And there were like, as far as Bambera's character went, I couldn't tell if they were saying like, oh yeah, this is I couldn't tell if like the narrative was like siding with that character or saying like, yeah, this is a bad thing. I really couldn't tell at all. I don't know.
Well, I mean, there's also like a couple scenes where there's very obviously no fighting going on yet, and then the Doctor will drop this like 3 line-long statement about how war is bad and how people die. Like when, I think when the Brig shows up or sometime when the Doctor and the Brig are together, the Brig's got his gun and the Doctor's like, oh yes, it's always all too easy, isn't it? Just pull the trigger and they're dead. And I'm like, that was out of nowhere. I don't know. Maybe it was just too ambitious for its own britches.
I guess, and there's also the fact that, like, maybe this is just me not knowing enough about stuff in general, but, like, when you can't tell what it's trying to, like, say about the thing, then, like, why? Just why? Or maybe we're just making all of this up and we just didn't get it. I mean,
I was going to say there's, like, a possibility that the plot itself just convoluted the message they were trying to do. Like, sometimes it's difficult to get across a certain message when you're also trying to get across some other certain plot. Like we mentioned before, how the Doctor's whole "we shouldn't kill people" message has always been undermined by the fact that he, like, killed all the Daleks the first time he met them.
Well, you know, the best stories usually not mix them, but, like, relate them. But again, it's a 4 TV show. 4 episode serial of a TV show. So, like, what are you gonna do, right?
Yeah. Well, anyway, 3 serials to go. Email us at thedoctor@decadevvegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters, your thoughts on the Brigadier's final appearance on the show. We didn't mention that. It is his final time on the show ever.
Doesn't he come back in the reboot?
Not on the official show. He shows up in the Sarah Jane Adventure spin-off, but not in Doctor Who.
Huh.
So it is his final time on screen. I guess technically we should have done a Brigadier retrospective then, but
nope.
Anyway, you can find us on iTunes, YouTube, and Google Play, all at Trust Your Doctor. Leave a rating if you like the show.
Check us on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor. Like us on Facebook. Also check us on Twitter at TYD Podcast, and follow us on Twitter. And next week we watch Ghostlight. But until then, the end.